Okay. All right. So I hope I've been able to clear up all the misunderstandings a little bit. Okay. I'll take that as a yes. Okay. So can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. I'll proceed. So I was going to do this later in the class, but since it's already come up, by way of, Shantae had already gone through this and we did touch it up. It's not going to be an exhaustive class today, but it's going to be, for lack of a better word, it's going to be going a step deeper to give you a sense of what Scrum and Agile is. And so Scrum is basically um, it's part of the whole Agile process. And this is just the basics to go over that because it ties into um, when you do Scrum, user stories come up. There's Scrum ceremonies. There are so many things that come in. Well, these are things which are technical. So as a product manager, you do a lot of research. You interface with several stakeholders in your company. You're doing customer research, understanding user insights, user needs, what are their pain points, which we touched on about 2 classes ago or the class before. Understanding what the customer needs are and aligning them with the business needs, because you sit at the intersection between the user, the business needs, and the development team. That's the technical. So after doing user research, doing surveys, doing focus groups, any tool that you've used in your arsenal to gather signals and data, you now have to be able to have them in the backlog and have a way to present that to your team in a very in a manner that the team can all join in and be able to work with you and champion the vision. So Scrum is borrowed from rugby. In rugby, you have teams and they have Scrum teams, and people huddle together. It is like a very lack of a better word, informal meeting. It's not a meeting where you have suit and tie and go sit there and you have to order some food and sit and eat and take too much time. It is something that happens. It shouldn't take more than 15 minutes, or no more than 30 minutes. Really quick. It should not stop you from getting much needed work done. It's supposed to be something that will facilitates the vision and the roadmap for whatever product you're working on. So your team can build and be in touch with each other. You don't go too deep into the development without talking to legal, without talking to design, without talking to the QA team, right? So it's all about teamwork, right? Scrum is about teamwork and bringing the best out of the team, right? And as a part of the agile practices, Scrum allows more flexibility to get a lot of a lot of feedback in the development process in time before things really go south, right? So Fortune 500 companies use Scrum and Agile. So Scrum is part of Agile, the whole Agile methodology, right? As software gets bigger, and like I said, product management encompasses so many industries. Aviation has product managers. Delta has it. United has it. UAE, I mean, the Arab Emirates, you name it, they all have it. Banks have it, and the financial companies have it. We call it fintech. They all have some sort of agile teams moving things in the background. AT&T, where I worked, they had the same thing. We had teams. I led a team that sat in Plano, Texas, Dallas, Atlanta, and Bothell, Washington, in Washington State. So you have different buckets of teams with each team leader as you, the product manager, leading the whole charge. So prior to Agile, there was something called Waterfall, which I think we touched on last time as well. So each one has its pluses and minuses, right? Waterfall it's such that everything works like in a conveyor belt fashion. So uh, you do all the research first, then you hand on to design. Design takes care of that, and design hands it off to development. Development does theirs, and then when development is done, they move it on to QA and testers. When it's tested and everything is done, then you ship. So I mean, logically, it is the logical step for most humans, but software is not linear, or building products is not always linear. Things happen. There are times when new requirements will come in. The market is ever consistently moving and ever changing, right? So being agile, the word agile as we know it, or in English, is to be nimble, being able to adapt to market forces, to user changes. So the problem with waterfall was, it was back then. It has its uses though. Don't get me wrong. Waterfall works well in established industries, like say you're working on an operating system, or you're working on a self-contained application like Word, Microsoft Word, that has been used for so long. Everybody knows where people use Word, and you're just building on top of it incrementally. Then waterfall can be used, and like building an operating system is the same steps all the time. But when you're building like something like Bubbles, or you're building Tab Now, or building um, anything that is current, like a DoorDash or Uber, the market is always changing. The goalpost is always changing, and the team needs to be adaptable, be able to react quickly to forces in the market, so that adjust to changes, right? Um, and so we're going to go over just an overview before we go much deeper later in writing user stories. I spent time with Shantae during our office hours to let her know this is the structure of a user story. It's like a user story is like a promise between the product manager and the stakeholder that this concern will be dealt with. So you communicate your concerns with me. We record that and keep that in a backlog to be revisited. And as a product manager, I have to consistently go back to that backlog to do what we call grooming. Go through the backlog and see the user stories in the backlog have all the requirements and all the supporting um, artifacts to make it ready to be worked on. That's like when you groom it, then it can be considered during a sprint planning, and then it can be part of your sprint um, in development. So we're going to touch up a little bit on the Scrum overview, how Scrum looks like, the roles in it, the events, which is the events or ceremonies, the artifacts, and what are the rules that go with Scrum as a part of Agile. Um, do you have any questions before we proceed? Okay. So I assume, does anybody have any questions before I proceed? All right. So the traditional approach, like I said before, was waterfall, which means um, things happen sequentially and not concurrently. It's in sequence, and one happens before the other, or one happens after the other, and so it goes you know in sequences. Waterfall works. It worked well in the industrial age. So like I said, product management is an extension of how things were done. The whole lean startup methodology and the product management of Scrum was um, more or less borrowed from the Toyota manufacturing plant, and how Toyota cars always were resilient, were quality. Even to today, Toyota, Honda, and all these cars are known for their quality. And meanwhile, the West just put things together and they worked, but they broke down often, and wanted to know why they were able to have that level of quality in their products. And so they went in to study the Japanese, and they found out that they actually have a method where they are very, very nimble and very adaptable when they are building stuff. But waterfall has its roots in the industrial age, where development was very linear. People stand on a assembly line in a conveyor belt type situation. Um, for example, Shantae will start with the chassis. She pass it on to Ayana to put in the tires. Then pass it on to me to put in the doors and the seats. Then pass it on to the next person. So that was like, it goes on and on down the chain. And everybody had what they did before it gets to the final stage. And when software, which obviously came, the word software is a derivation of the word hardware, because we had hardware, the computer became what? Software. So they just use the same analogy. Okay, if things were done in hardware production, then in software, let's follow the same thing where we do the design first, we do the research first, and then we come with a business plan, we do the research on it, and then we do the design, then we do development, then we do testing, then we do QA, then we do this. But then you realize that it was taking so long, it's very costly. By the time they go through all these iterations, technology is moving really fast. By the third or fourth quarter, your goals and your objectives are already changed. So we need a much faster way of getting things done. So people were, in waterfall, things were done step by step, in like the manufacturing model during the World War, and very structured, physical, and it was very costly because it took so much time. You have to pay people for their time, and it's like going through. So people go from requirement stage to design, then development, testing before you deploy, and we brought that same concept from our days in the industrial age into the information age. And while people meant well, the people meant well to bring it into software, it just does not fit in today's software, where when you ship two quarters late, you miss the market entirely. So things were worked in stages, and now you want to be able to move faster, right? There's a lot of cost went through the roof because requirements are ever changing month to month, and even by the time that you get to the third quarter, your objectives have moved up by so many percentage points that you have to either scrap it and redo it and go back to the top and go back to requirements, design, development, testing, and they were all independent and time boxed, not done concurrently. Yeah. So that is what they call the BDUF, which is the big design upfront, which you do everything together, and then you do all the designs, the requirements, and everything upfront, and it was very, very costly. So the solution was to introduce Agile, and like I said before, Agile is very, as the word implies, very responsive, nimble, versatile, and it has different iterations or different ways to execute Agile. In so that has become like the industry standard. But that said, waterfall is not like completely discarded. Okay, I think Ayana sent a question. Does it matter if you get a PSM or CSM certification for Scrum? I would say certifications don't matter. You can get certifications and not know what you're doing, because these certifications are usually done over a weekend, and you start on a Friday and you're done by Sunday. But that's not enough to really make you be really up to do the work. However, some companies or most companies like to see paper, right? That you have a paper from some body, a body of knowledge, and that you're able to get a CSM. So regardless of which one you take, I would rather you really know what you're doing than just saying you have a certificate, because certificates are a dime a dozen, and either one that you have, doesn't matter. What matters most is that you know and can actually execute and undergo all the artifacts that are needed to accomplish the task at hand. I hope that answers your question, Ayana. Yeah. All right. So I'll move on. And feel free to stop me or ask any questions. I'll be looking through to see any questions, or just interrupt me if you do have one. So again, Agile has so many, like we talked about TDD, which is test-driven development. There's BDD, you know, there's test-driven development. There's BDD. Just wanna, I think we have Ikram. Welcome. Hello, welcome.
Sorry. The number is this is your number, right? This is your card? Yeah. 4724 0904 858.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. So there's Kanban in in Agile. There's so many, but today I'm not gonna go into any of them. I'm just gonna give like overview, a general overview. Okay. All right. So there's XP means extreme programming, TDD, test driven development, Kanban, and you name it. There some of them are prescriptive and are very stringent, and Agile is more adaptive. So Scrum, Kanban is very loose and very adaptable for very small projects and quickly get things done. So most people like to use Scrum and some sort of extreme programming, a combination of the two to really move things faster. Okay, so now I just want to do a quick overview. And again, like I said, I did a detour to address this because it has come up a few times, and I think it will help to really understand how Scrum works, so that in the future, if you do, when we go deeper into user stories, you know where user stories fall within the whole, how do you call it, landscape. So Scrum is easy to learn quickly, but it's difficult to master because it takes more than just a weekend to get a certification. You really need to be doing it and be flexible, become adaptive, and be able to understand how the different artifacts work. So some of the things about Scrum, it's or Agile. So I'm using the words interchangeable because Scrum is a part of Agile. It's more about jumping in. How do we create value out of the box? We don't have time to wait for all the research. We want to get enough information and begin to execute. Why? The market is a moving force. It's a current. There are so many things that happen. Companies have to always be innovating, innovate or die. You cannot have like 2 to 3 years of taking your time to do extensive PhD research and all that. You have to learn as you go. You have to be able to plan, learn as you go and start dealing with ambiguity. You don't have to have all the points, all your I's dotted and all your T's crossed before you start. So you just start with enough signals and enough validation, and you learn as you go. You have to be planned for change because things might go south. And also, you have to have command and control of what you're doing, and you learn as you go. You are planning for what you expect to happen and also plan for the unexpected, right? And you have to embrace change to enforcing the plan that you put in. You have to be able to be adaptable and using change as a control. And change becomes your friend and not your enemy. Change allows you to be able to be adaptable, right? So, when you're adaptable, you're able to have multiple lanes of work going on. So design can be doing their thing, code is moving on. There's overlapping work. So you don't wait for the research team to do theirs. They hand over to design, and then code does theirs, and then this one, everything happens together, right? So that means there's always that synergy, and there's something to be done all the time that moves the wheels of the company. Now, want to go into what constitutes as the Scrum. that core team that you as a product manager or product owner will be assigned to. So we have the roles, different roles within Scrum, and then we have what we call the events, and then we have what we call the artifacts, and then the rules. Okay. So mostly in a Scrum, you will find what we call a product owner. Some companies interchange the word product owner. Oops. Sorry about that. Yeah, so some companies will interchange the word product owner with product manager. Usually, the bigger the company, you would have a defined product manager, and then you have a defined product owner role. So in this case, the product manager is set free. It does not really touch the Scrum team, the development team. They're free to now do more like research and do more of the customer facing stuff, and then they hand over to the product owner to pick up the slack or pick up from where they leave off. So the product owner will be doing the backlog grooming, the Scrum sessions, and all that good stuff. But some companies will just call you product owner and expect you to do both the work of a product manager and a product owner. So just so you know, they're interchangeable, and you should be aware of that. So you have the product owner, we have the Scrum Master. The Scrum Master is usually the project manager, but we give them a nice name, we call them the Scrum Master. And don't let the word master fool you. It is more of like a servant leader type role. You have a lot of responsibility, but you don't have any direct power. You cannot say, hey, I don't like Shantae, I fire you. No. You are the master because you're the one, like, think of it as you go to the poolside or beach, you have a Scrum Master is kind of like the lifeguard. They are there to make sure that everybody's in their lane swimming, and any issues that come up, they're able to jump in and unblock the team. And so they sit between the product owner and the team. And it's done that way. So they are very embedded with the team. As the designer, the product, the developers, the QA team, so that they're able to quickly assess any what we call headcount issues, people that may not be on the team, people on vacation. Product owners we don't worry your head about that. All that is handled by the Scrum Master. And so they're a 7-leader role, and they basically are there to help remove the blocks and to make life much easier for everybody. So like it says here, as the product Scrum Master, you're the process coach. You help remove project impediments, both reactively and proactively. So as they happen, that's reactively, and proactively it's before they even happens. And you shield the team from external interferences. So that's why you're here as a Scrum Master. These are your babies. Even though I come in to work with you as a product owner or product manager, you are like in bed, you know their temperaments, you know everything that's going on. You have a finger on the pulse of the team, and you make sure that they are protected and no external forces come in. Anything dealing with other stakeholders, that goes through me. If a VP or director or CEO has anything, they talk to me. If it's a customer facing stuff, the team does not have to worry themselves with that, because the team are very specialized. They're writing code, they are pushing code, or they are pushing pixels. Pushing pixels means they are designing the user interface, they are implementing the UX, they are doing a QA, they're doing behavior-driven development, and they're doing test-driven development. So they don't have that space to deal with customer complaints. I'm supposed to handle all that, or I say I because I'm a product manager, but you as a product manager or product owner, you deal with all those stuff and you put them in user stories, and everybody has their role. So Scrum Master protects them, protects the team from organizational distraction. So those who write code will code, and those who design will push their pixels, and that's the Scrum Master. And then here comes you, aspiring product manager. You are the one responsible for the vision. You are the visionary. You are the one that prioritizes the work to be done, right? You are the source of all requirements. Like if anything technical goes through the Scrum Master. And if it's a bigger team, there'll be several Scrum teams, and you have an engineering manager who manages all of them. But the product owner talks to the Scrum Master, talks to the engineering manager, and does not have the direct authority over the team, but has influence over the team. And but you still lead because you own the vision. You are the one that prioritizes all the work for the product because you are the one that knows the business use case. You are the one that has the user research done and know why we have to build this versus the other one. So you are the one that are the conductor. You work with the team to develop the common understanding of requirements. You prioritize all the work, and you also set the release schedule. And in some cases, you are the subject matter expert. You become the expert in whatever product that you are in charge of. So you're the owner or the product manager. I'm going to pause for a second and ask if you have any questions. Is there anything I need to clarify before I move on? Am I going too fast?
I have no questions.
Look, okay. All right. So I will proceed then. So again, some companies are very adamant. So some companies are very flexible. Some are very traditional. Some are more flexible. And by traditional flexible, I mean, even though they want to do Scrum, they still have some elements of waterfall in it. And some of them will require, one delegated person who more or less leads and becomes the commander and tells you what to do. And other teams are more like very startup, scrappy, self-organizing. They, quickly call meetings and get it done. Everyone is each other's helper because we're in it together as a teamwork, right? We're optimized for flexibility, creativity, and productivity. We want to get things done and done quick, right? So what can be accomplished rather than being bureaucratic and waiting for clearance from bottlenecks and all that. You just jump in and get things done when they need to get done. So the difference is, for the traditional approach, everyone has a designated task they do, and it's very rigid. But so you have, in this case, you have an analyst, we have the QA team, you have the operations team, you have the development team, and then each one has its leader, and there's different layers. Very traditional and very red tape. A lot of red tape to go through, but the cross-functional means in each pod you have an analyst, you have a QA, you have the dev team, and then you have operations team, and you have another cross-function team here, another cross-function team here. So there's diversity in that pool, and there's a lot of cross-pollination, right? Versus the traditional way where the QA, like B&H, company that I worked at, I don't even see the development team. They're in a different floor. One of them is in England, and I don't even know who they are. I have to figure out who they are. The data team is somewhere. The analyst team is somewhere. It's like you just sit. You might as well work from home because you don't see anybody. You just sit at your desk, and everybody you're talking to are on different floors, and there's really not much interaction. For some companies, like B&H, they are an e-commerce. Well, first they're brick and mortar, and they have an e-commerce, and they've been around since the 70s, so they are kind of still entrenched in that. They have not fully accepted agile, and they are still entrenched in that traditional structure where all the teams are separated in silos. But when you go to companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon, there's a lot of cross functionality with one team having analyst on it, QA, dev, and everything, even UX and UI into one pod. So you have one functional team here, functional 2, functional 3, and you all talk to each other. Each one also has his own product manager working on different features or different parts of the app, and you're constantly having communication, right? So they all have different competencies needed to accomplish the work without depending on others who are not part of the team. Whereas here, if I'm part of the dev team, I need to wait until I get resources from the analysts. Like I have to make a request when I need data to the data team at B&H. I put in a request to them in a ticket and then wait for them to populate that and send it to me. It's just too much bureaucracy and red tape. But hey, some companies function that way, and that's how they want things done. And there's no preference. I prefer more cross-functional, more nimble teams are diverse, and we pull all our resources together to get things done versus send a request for data, send requests for QA, send requests for design. It takes so much time, and it makes, for me personally, I prefer cross-functional. But again, it depends on the team or company that you're working at. So this is just a recap. Self-organizing, self-managing team members determine their own task through the sprint backlog. There's autonomy, and you work together to complete the task, and you basically have each other's back, right? Team members are not tied to a single skill set. That means cross-functional. I can step in for Shantae to help her with something. Like earlier today, I had a Scrum meeting with my team, and the client wants something else added, a new feature, and engineers are not the only smartest people in the room. They had a roadblock on how to do a payment system that goes between an app, and they were talking on a much deeper level. So I was like, hey guys, how about this? How about we just create a ledger, keep all the payments in one centralized location, and each user has an algorithm that determines what percentage of the total amount they owe, the total funds available. So let's say Shantae owns 30%, Ayana has 40%, Faloni has 50. I'm just throwing numbers around. So all we do is, for every amount that Shantae uses, her percentage will decrease, and it will just fetch back and reflect that in the ledger. And then when all her 30% is down to zero, the funds still remain, but less what she's taking out. Same with Diana and anybody in the team. And they're like, oh, you know what? That's a much more simple, elegant solution. So right there, even though I'm not the one to do the development, I thought about a more simpler way. And they're like, wow, that's great. I'm like, that's how banks work. Because when you have a bank, you don't really have the money sitting somewhere. It's just numbers on a ledger that says Ayana has $1 million with Chase Bank, and it's part of their whole 100 billion in assets that they have. But I just put a ledger that Ayana is entitled to a slice of this pie. And as she uses the money, that percentage decreases until she's hopefully now used it all. But if she uses it all, then it says zero. And then now her name is still there because she's still part of the team or part of the company or the bank. But currently she doesn't have any percentage. So the account becomes zero. So that was a much simple solution. So I'll use that as an example because this is a solution that sometimes people overanalyze and they get in their own way. But from a fresh pair of eyes and from a product manager perspective, I came with a solution, and unanimously the team accepted it, and they're like, we like that. So that is what means that cross-functional team members are not tied to a single skill set. I have a deep understanding of code. I can handle my own when needed. I just prefer managing and doing product management. And so you have that diversity in talent. You self-organize and you deal with sprint backlogs. The product manager doesn't tell you what to do. We just look at, okay, John is best with backend. He can handle these stories. And so we assign those to John. Maybe Adam is better with these other stories, so we assign it to them. So we're leveraging each other's strength, and we're self-organizing and making sure that whatever needs to get the job done, that's what we do. And we are accountable for each other, creating projects, deliverables, and we just kind of, and ideally you should be co-located. Even if you're not physically co-located, you should have some virtual co-location that allows you to really collaborate and work, because it's a team effort. And so most traditional companies that were formed much earlier in the late to early 70s or later tend to want the more traditional IBM type, wear suit and tie and work in silos, and departments don't talk to each other. That is not, it's just kind of phased out now. All right, so I'm gonna shift gears and go into the ceremonies. Do you have any questions pertaining to the what I just said? If not, I'll just continue in the interest of time. So the events are also what we call ceremonies, things that happen, right? So we have the roles, we have the team, we know what everyone does. Scrum Master protects the team from external influences, anything removes blocks, impediments, blah, blah, blah. I deal with the stuff that the upper suite, CEO, chief product officer, customers, bugs, you name it. And then I work closely with the Scrum Master and the team to make this happen. So, and how do I do that? There are events or ceremonies that happen, right? So there's things like having what we call regularity and consistency. So we have regular set times that we get work done. We also minimize meetings. So some companies, not to mention one that I worked for in here in Jersey, it was meetings galore. You come in, and then when everybody shows up and they're ready, there's a meeting for about an hour. By the time the meetings are done, it's almost like 12, and you only have like an hour, and then you go for lunch. You come back, and there might be another meeting, and then you only have like very minimal time to get work done. But this was like the kind of companies that like, IMAs, Institute of Management Accountants, mostly older folks, 50s and up. They just come in and get things done, and things are a bit slower. So there's no urgency. But Scrum, the goal here is to minimize unnecessary meetings, right? We have more time to work than just unnecessary unending meetings. We focus on a sense of urgency. So there's time-boxed actions and events that have to take place, and we work through that quickly and nimbly to get things done. And we try to reduce complexity and to be more predictable. So when we break things down into its functional components, then people are able to work more quickly. And then it introduces transparency, and there's openness, transparency, there's trust, and there's accountability. So these are the things that allows for Scrum to be agile, that be more quick to adapt to change, and being able to take care of things in a more agile or faster manner than traditional ways. So in the Scrum, there's what we call the sprint. There's the daily Scrum, there's sprint planning, there's sprint review, and the sprint retrospective. So the sprint really deals with what happens, like the daily actual work being done, right? So usually that happens. The product manager or product owner has groomed a bunch of backlog items, including user stories. And again, we're going to go deeper into that because this is just a component of the whole piece. And I don't expect us to get everything in just like an hour and a half. So you groom the backlog. Grooming means you open the stories, you check the dependencies from other team, things that are missing that needs to be addressed. So that way, developers are not chasing around looking for these things. They just get what we call the groom story. It has been sized and ready to be taken into development. So that's why there's differentiation of skill sets. So the sprint is the actual development or what needs to get things done to move things, development. And usually it has, no more than a month. Most companies stick to a 2-week sprint cycle. One company I worked for did 3-week sprint cycles, but typically you don't want to do more than a month. So in a quarter, you should be able to have at least minimum 3. If you're doing or 6 or even more, if you have a much shorter sprint cycle, the shorter the sprint, you can quickly iterate and catch errors and fix them in a matter of days than going through quarters before you see the error. And quarters is a lot of months to really go back to make it change, right? So, and then the daily Scrum is quick. Well, I guess these are all here. We can go through all of them, but the daily Scrum is quick huddle meeting with the team. You get together. Want to know, anything from, hey, Shanti, how are things going? How's anything in your space right now? Everything's good. We took in this number of stories. Everything was good. No problem. No family issues. Like a quick thing to check in with the team. Quick 15 minutes. Everybody stands up. It's also called a stand-up meeting, where you quickly give status report. Yeah, I'm still working on this thing. Oh no, I'm having this issue with this thing. So then the the Scrum Master can quickly jump in with the product manager to unblock whatever is causing the issue. Or there's something that I need that I don't have yet. We thought we had it, so we need to ask the relevant team to find that so you can facilitate you. Then the sprint planning. So this is in no order, but sprint planning is kind of like after the product manager, you have done the back back backlog grooming, and then you've prioritized the work to be done. You plan with the team, assess based on historical data. Typically, the team is able to go through 100 user stories because you have a team of 5. So you have to be able to know, okay, this developer is out sick or on leave or vacation or whatever on their honeymoon. So that means we're short staffed, so we can't really do 100% 100 user stories. So we have to do only 75. So we plan and we are adaptable for that, right? So sprint planning also goes deeper. We're going to take each one later on and go much deeper to break them down into it, because it involves what we call t-shirt sizing, which means the user stories are planned, and then we have to t-shirt sizing means, is this a small, medium, large, or extra large? That's how you assign the user stories. So it's a planning that involves all stakeholders. Development team is available, design is available, QA, they're all available, and they all have their input so that we all are on the same page. And then when we're moving as a team, as a unit, and we're able to identify any issues. So we say, okay, John, I can take on 25 user stories and be done in the next 2 weeks. Adam will take maybe 30. So everyone divvies it up. But hey, this story, we thought it was a medium shirt, but it's actually extra large. So we have to break it down. Or, this one it's too big. We have to actually break it down into small pieces and address that. So those are things that are done during the planning. And then the sprint review. So basically, ideally, you've done a backlog grooming, you do your sprint, plan a sprint, you start a sprint. The sprint could be a 2-week sprint, it could be a 3-week sprint. So that is when actual work is being done. While as the team is building and working on this stuff, and then we are in our second week or the end of the sprint, we come together as a team to, review the sprint, and all that, and also have what we call sprint retrospective. When the sprint ends, the retrospect means to look back, right? Retro, looking, expect means look. So to look back, what happened in the planning, what happened during the sprint itself. There was a user story that we thought was small and we could get it done, but it really kicked our butts, and we have to go back or there's not much data, or the competition changed. We wanted to come up with an API that does that RESTful API, but we found out the competition is using GraphQL, which is faster and it consumes less data, and it's going to be cost effective. So these things are caught early. So at the end of the sprint, if you catch it in 2 weeks, it's better than waiting till end of 3 months, a quarter or 2 quarters. That's 6 months too late. So these things happen. So you're able to address them very quickly before it gets out of hand. And like I said, we're going to go much deeper. Like I said, the sprint is the core in the middle of the that's where work actually gets done. It's very consistent. There's a time for it, where the team completes the group of tasks from start to finish. All the tasks that you have in the backlog that we've decided to work on, we jump onto it, we get it all done. There's a duration, which usually starts from anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. Ideally, you want to be 2 weeks to 3 to 4. Anything beyond 4 weeks is too much. So it's very consistent, and you keep with that. And each sprint can be like its own project. And when you accomplish each sprint, you then go back and reiterate and pick up on the next sprint and the next and the next. And then it's like each sprint is built on top of each other. You're building on top of what you did from your prior work and making sure everything is working well. So assuming this is like your product backlog, we've prioritized these sets of 9 stories. I push into the sprint backlog. So the team starts. We do a daily, we start the sprint. While the sprint is going on the first week or that daily scrum, I don't wait till the sprint is over. I'm always checking to see, hey, how are things going? Can I get an update on this? Can I, okay. 15 minutes every day, we just check in quickly. And then I can catch anything that's happening with these stories and either take them out or fix them before the sprint ends. And when the sprint ends, we do what the sprint retrospect and all that good stuff before we then test it. Everything is good. And I'm like, okay, I think we're good to push this out to ship or potentially ship it to the next batch. So people get an update request on their iPhone or Android to update the app because we added some new features to it and it has to be updated. Now we're going to talk about the script. I mean, most of these things I'm kind of combining together as I speak because they all happen, almost. So I touched upon the spring backlog, which are some of the, there's some other work on the specific project that has to be done. As a product backlog, right? It's just a list. It's not prioritized. It's not, but I go in and prioritize these. So those that I checked in, I shaded are the ones that I've actually prioritized, which means I've groomed the story. It's ready to go, and take it into sprint. I build it, and go through the whole thing. So there are some rules of engagement in those sprints, right? You want to make sure that you doing meaningful work and making sure that you are also checking and inspecting as you move along. And it's all about quality control. The reason why Agile and Scrum is very much adopted is because it is very, again, nimble, and you can test for quality iteratively. That's why TDD, the test-driven development, you don't wait till you're done writing all the code before you test. You write it. There's the user test, and what I told Shantae during our office hours, something called acceptance criteria, or what we call acceptance criteria is how do we know when this feature is actually done? That is the acceptance criteria that is appended to the user story ticket. And then part of the acceptance criteria is where you can add things like the test cases, because for something to be called accepted and ready to be used, then what it has to have what meet the requirements. So when you click on a button, you're supposed to perform a certain task. When I click on enter, it's supposed to be moving from the home page, or when I hit on sign in, I have to go to my user profile and then be able to edit. Or when I click on edit, this is what's supposed to happen. So that becomes what the acceptance criteria. And then there's also the unit tests that are written to test all those things. For example, in a form that takes name, first name, last name, date of birth, phone number, email, I shouldn't be able to type in numbers where the first name is or last name is. And likewise, I shouldn't be able to type in letters where the phone number is required. So all these have to be tested and checked so it behaves as intended. That's what we call the test-driven development. So all these are captured in the user stories, so it reduces rework. So this is some of the features, or basically, there's several people that use this. So there's always like what makes Scrum good. It always focuses on making the customer happy. You're able to get adapt to customer changes. Like we had a meeting earlier this week, a client that wants new things added because they saw a competitor app in Dubai. They're doing an app called Tab Now for ordering drinks at a bar. And they came across an app called Scene in Dubai for finding events, and they like these features and they want it done. If we're doing waterfall, you have to go back and do research and do this and then do development and all that before we actually find what we need. But they're able to delight the customer. You as a team are able to have ownership of what you're doing, so you're able to quickly adapt to change. There's also a culture of continuous learning because you're cross-functional. I jump in to help when needed, and we help each other. So I have to know more about coding and also know about design, what makes good design, what is UX, be able to address all these and more so that I'm able to really make things work. And, servant leadership, you're leading by a servant, but not as by servant, not like leader or boss to be worshipped. And it allows you to be able to be adaptable to change and also increases collaboration between the team. All right. So, I mean, these are just other pretty much the core when it comes to product Scrum. I'm going to pause for a second to see if you have any questions or concerns so far. Okay. I'll take it that there are no questions means you're okay. So I will, let me see if I can probably go through this real quick with the time that we have. There's another slide that I wanted to go through if time permits. I think we can go through that real quick. Let's see. Yeah, let me go through this too. In the next 15 minutes, I think we can quickly go through this. Let's see, sprint. We have this. Just let me know if you can see my screen. All right, can you see it?
I can see it.
All right, yeah. So this is a real quick recap. So the agile process framework, it how do you call it, prioritizes work, adding value, and reducing the time to getting things done. So focus on real business, building for real business value versus just building. It is very regular and frequent delivery, so that in a month you can release at least twice. In a quarter, that means 6 release cycles to make some meaningful contribution as a team. So this is more visualized. You have it helps you to come up with high quality software because you're able to catch bugs. There's a lot of checkpoints to uncover bugs before they become too big. You're able to have dialogue with the team to know where their roadblocks are and remove them before it's too late. You're able to deal with burnout. As a product manager, you are like the therapist, you are the counselor, you are the tech person, you are the design person. You have to have EQ, and be able to empathize with your team and also with the customers and all that. So we have the backlog here. You planned it. So backlog is like, the things to be done. You go and groom it and get it ready to be planned with the team, and then create a sprint backlog that the team now takes in. So they can do it in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks. And it's like iterating cycle. So they pick a set of sprint backlog items, funnel it through, and then it gets to here. So I can use this to annotate. Let's see. I can draw with. Yep. So this is the sprint backlog. This is and this product backlog. It's different from the sprint backlog because this is a bunch of stuff. You take some of it, slice it, prioritize it, and that's what goes into the sprint. So it goes here. This color is not the best. Let's do red. Let me clear the screen. Okay, so red is better. So this is the backlog. Is the sprint backlog? It's a microcosm of the product backlog that has been prioritized has been planned against business cases. The OKRs we talked about last week, objectives and key results, and also the priorities for the business. How is the market looking? What are the users saying? Well, how are the market forces? So I take this, be able to run it through 2 weeks, and then it's done. And I basically go back, pick another sprint backlog, funnel it through. So it's like ongoing, and we are always like iterating to getting things done. Until it's done, then we come to something that is we can ship to the masses, right? So let me clear my screen here. Okay, so pardon my. Okay, so we'll go back here. So it's changing what would have been just a bunch of to-do lists sitting there in Jira or Asana or any product management tool, and taking the mess and creating sense out of it, the chaos in it, and making it more how do you call it, organized, and not just building anything, but prioritizing it for the team. So you take all these things, organize in the to-do list, understand the requirements. It's always changing, and it's always prioritized, so that you are able to stay on top of the competition, right? So there could be a list of things listed here, product backlog in a document. You prioritize them on business value. Doing the CMS is high value and high frequency versus prioritizing building a CMS over working on a photo gallery is a low priority. It doesn't add much to the business, so you don't spend too much time on that. RSS feed is nice, but it's not something that will break the team. That's a real simple syndication to get news from other places, news section, newsletter. So you as a product manager has the product backlog, and then you're prioritizing against the business value, the use case value, the whole framework is it impactful? Is it how confident is the team able to do this, and what's the engineering effort needed to get this done? You look at the reach, how much of your user base will be benefiting from this particular CMS versus the shop. And so you look at all these, okay, having the CMS, the shop page, which is the portal, the homepage, the articles, the contact, these are all high priority. So we want to prioritize them for the sprint. Search function is high priority, but you can still use the CMS without it. But eventually that's the next thing to do. And checking the competition for what they have, like all these things. So you keep them. You, the product owner or product manager, you're representing all stakeholders. Stakeholders are your users. Stakeholders are your the C-suite, VPs, directors, executive directors, all those big titles, inflated egos. You're managing them. The engineering team is also a stakeholder. So you are making sure the engineering team is happy and building and have no issues, so they can get their work done. And you are also making sure that they're building what matters and not just building for building's sake. You are responsible for making sure there's a return on investment on what you're doing. You have the right to accept or reject the results out of the whole thing, whole process, because you are accepting it based on the acceptance criteria, based on the use case, the reach, the impact, and also any stated OKRs or objectives, keys, and the key results. You are the one that manages the backlog. You define and prioritize functionalities. So sprint, this is just a visual way to see how much of the value, a great value of the product can be done within a 2 to 4 week time box, and how the velocity is the speed in getting this done. So you as a PO, you present all the high priority user stories that the team needs to consider, because the team they're just ready to develop what you tell them, but you have to prioritize them based on all the parameters that were given before, and then the team selects the stories to sprint and split it into tasks, and then you define the goal of the sprint, and the sprint backlog is created, and they get to work, right? So you have the product backlog, same thing that we did before. Being always, you're working down to bring down the product backlog to a 0 and prioritizing to what needs to be done. A product backlog never really gets to 0 because stories are coming in, bugs are coming in, things are happening, the market is, so that's what keeps you in business, right? So typical Scrum team, you the product, there'll be a Scrum master. You know, it's multifunctional. You just quickly get together by water cooler or somewhere to just get things done. There's no going to a conference room, ordering donuts and bringing a box of Joes and drinking coffee, and no, none of that. It's optimized for efficiency. You know, you quickly get together within 10, 15 minutes, you're done. Everybody gets back to their work. So the Scrum Master, moving obstacles. This is a reiteration of what we just said. Avoiding interferences. You keep focus on the sprint goal that the product owner has given him and the team. And he wants to make sure that there's collaboration between the team, and he's a guardian, protecting everybody. So an example of the daily Scrum, you all come together quickly to this table. Now, in the virtual world, we have virtual Scrum using software like Miro, but in a physical co-located team, there'll be a board where you go in, and there'll be all these things in there. So you ask questions like, what did we do yesterday? What are we doing today? And hey, guys, what's blocking you? You know what? We're having a problem with the database system. We're using MongoDB, but it's not doing good. It's giving us these errors. Well, how can we solve this? Collaboratively as a team, we come with solutions, and the answers are committed, and we process that. So we have things that are not yet to be done, not started. Those that are in process, and those that are done. That's a simple Kanban canvas. But Jira and Sprint has much deeper, more fields. There could be things like to be done, what is being done in progress. Then it has to be QA tested. It has to be integrated, and then before it's done. So those are additional steps that can come in. And then you're looking at your burn down chart. So you started now at this point. You have this number of stories. How many stories are you able to go through as the time goes down? And this is where we are today, but we still need to get all these done. And as a function of how quick the team is able to go through, these sprints and getting things done. So, we know we need to get things done by this date, and we're halfway through. So we know, okay, we are in our third sprint. So we get to have 6 sprints, and we're almost there. So it's looking good. Everything's on time. If you're halfway there and you're still here, then there's a problem, right? Because you should be far advancing towards completion to delivery. So it gives you a way to keep an eye on what is going on. I don't know if we did that. Yep. So then we have the sprint reviews, and retrospective is reviewing the sprint, what went in and what didn't go in. Retrospective, what happened, how can we do better? So there's some sort of a quality assurance consistently going on. The sprint review is looking at the results, right? That's when you do a demo. Set up a demo to show what was done. Demo it to the team. It's very informal. You demo the new features that you did on the sprint. They review it. Okay, we wanted this button and all that. Okay, it's there now. Oh, nice. Or whatever didn't make it, you note it and get it back into the whole thing. So look at what worked well. Sprint retrospective is different from the review. Review is a demo of what has been done to show it and make sure it's doing what it's supposed to do. The retrospective is looking at what worked well in this sprint, what can we do better, and all that good stuff to sort of a feedback for the team. And then, so those are the sprint review and sprint retrospective. That happens before the product is shipped. So as a product owner, you have the roles in the Agile Scrum, the product owner, the Scrum Master, and the team. The artifacts are the product backlog, which we talked about. They're found in the Jira. They're found in Asana. Wherever you keep some companies use something called Rally. You have the burn down chart to show you how effectively the team is moving through user stories and all that. And so managing the backlog, prioritizing that, sprint backlog. The ceremonies are the planning. So planning is based on what is in the backlog that has been groomed and ready to go. You plan it. The ceremonies means something that happens with more than one person, not just a product owner. So the product manager or the owner calls a meeting for planning. everybody comes in, he opens the backlog, show what's there, prioritize it with the team. We pick the stories. Daily Scrum, we come together to daily check, hey, what's going on? We don't wait till the end of the sprint to catch stuff. And then retrospective is when we're done, review, we test it and make sure it's doing what it's supposed to do. So when you put these things in place, it allows communication. There's transparency. There's commitment. People know their responsibilities. We share responsibilities and results. We know the strengths and the weaknesses, and that really helps move the development process forward. So I rest my case. Any questions? Any clarifications? Okay. So I'll take your silence to mean no questions. Like I said, I don't expect you to know all this in just an hour. We're gonna, as part of our assignments that we'll be doing, we'll be going deeper and really breaking things down and getting into the nitty gritty and doing examples, because each one has its own unique set of tasks that has to be done. And that's where we want to do that hands-on, joining the team on Saturdays, if possible, to be in the meetings, to see how scrums are held, to get a sense of what is being done, how things are happening and all that. So we can keep reports and be able to catch things before they get out of hand. What are some takeaways that you get from today's class, Shante? I mean, in a nutshell. Are you there, Shante?
I'm here.
I was asking if you have any questions.
No, I didn't have any questions.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we're going to revisit this because there's a whole lot more to it. Now, this is just a quick overview, and I had to, wanted to do this because I wanted to, we not just you, but a few people that were prepared for interviews, and also just to let you know that user stories is just a microcosm of a bigger picture. So you can see where user stories will usually happen will be in the product backlog, the sprint planning, grooming. So the backlog, the stories come in, and then you groom them, and then you plan them. Then you prioritize it, and you work on them. Okay, I think I see a question here. That's Ikram. Says, what course can I take? What is your what are you looking to do? Are you looking to be a product manager, project manager, or Scrum Master? Ikram. Oh, you want to be a Scrum Master? I'll say there's a course. There's so many of them that you can take. I can refer you to one of them. Who's a Scrum Master? They have a course that I can refer you to that deals strictly with this, because they deal with most of the technical aspect of product development. But this is some of the stuff that we'll touch on in this class too. So you can we're going to go deeper into the Scrum Master stuff in this class. I brought this up earlier than normal because we had touched out on user stories, and there was a big need for it to touch on it to put things in perspective, because we talk about how to understand the user. So I just decided to bring it up a little early so that we can do a little bit of a deep dive. This is not too deep. This is just before we just talked about it, but today we kind of dipped our toes in it. And then we're going to go much deeper where we're doing writing user stories, understanding how to prioritize, how to, what's something called invest, which I explained to Shantae, which means the user story has to be what? Independent of each other stories. It has to be negotiable, which means you should be able to negotiate how things are done. It has to, V means has to add value to what the work that is being done. E means you should be able to estimate how long it will take to get it done, right? And so there's so many, and then we have the S, be able to go back and see, it has to be specific. There's so many things that come into it. The S means you have to be able to size it. So if the story is independent, it is negotiable. You can negotiate what is needed to get it done. So independent means it's standalone with no dependencies. Negotiable, it can be done, or it can be changed. It's flexible. It is valuable. That means it has a good value for the end user, for the business, for the company. Estimable, or that means you can estimate how long it will take to get it done. The size, is it small enough? What size? Is it a small, medium, large, extra large, or it has to be broken down? And then something that has to be what? Testable, which is what is the acceptance criteria, and what is the definition of done? So acceptance criteria is these are the criteria that has to be fulfilled for us to accept that this thing works. And definition of done means when do we know that this user story is actually done? So all those we're going to go deeper and understand the different components of a user story and be able to write very good user stories. So yeah, you can get in touch with me. I can get my phone number, email from Ayana or LinkedIn, and I can coach you on that. Or you can stay in this class and learn, because you can learn a whole lot more than just that. You become more versatile. So that's my LinkedIn, and I'll also give you my personal number, so you're able to have all the resources you need. I hope that answers your question, Ikram. You're welcome. Okay. So I have a few more minutes to answer any more questions. If you do have them, please feel free. Faloni, do you have any questions? All right. I think she's working, so she might not be able to answer. All right. So if you don't have any questions, I will motion to bring the class to a close. I will specifically be sending now all the assignments that are needed to cover what we've done so far. So just be prepared to really have a lot of work to be done. My office hours are available. Feel free to, book a time, and we're really flexible. I know Shantae booked the time, but I think she was busy, so she changed it. We're very flexible. We pick a time, and if anything changes, you can always let me know, and we can be adaptable and be agile about it. Yeah, I think I will bring the class to a close now, unless you have any other questions. Yeah, so we'll definitely, get back on track to do this next week. But in between, I'm going to have the homework to cover the intro, the ecosystem, aligning with customer needs, and then what we covered today. And I'll be dropping them via Slack and also email. So Ikram, please share your email with Ayana or send it to us, and we can include you so you can also be able to, I can share the videos from the prior weeks so you can get you up to speed. So at least you don't miss too much. This is just an intro. This is more about the ecosystem and then the user. So we can get caught up, and then you just join to this class with the Scrum stuff, and then we can dive into the next class. Does that help?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Yeah, and thank you so much. We really appreciate you all. And